Hello and welcome to Nerdarchy. For nerds, by nerds, I'm Nerdarchist Dave, and today I'm hanging out with this.
Nerdarchist Ted, how you doing this fine and lovely evening, sir?
I'm doing amazing. Technology and Zoo Mafia. So this is actually an area where I was coming up with some notes and ideas for this video, I was kind of disappointed in the amount of like technology we've used in Zoo Mafia because it's actually been pretty lackluster. We've used vehicles and we've used weapons, but honestly, there is so much more that we can still explore and play with, because even if you think about it, right? Like if you go from fantasy to like the Wild Wild West, there's a huge gap in technology, right? From medieval times to the Wild West. But from the Wild West to the 1920s and 30s, right? Even more so. Matter of fact, there might even be a little overlap with the West. With that being said, like there's so many things that for us yet to explore, and also like doing some research and coming up with things. Like for whatever reason, I just knew we wanted to have golf carts in our zoos. And when we hired an artist, we commissioned the artist to come up with the cover. He's like, "Hey, I started researching golf carts, and they did have them, but they look nothing like what someone would kind of recognize as a golf cart." And and they asked, do you want me to do a modern take on the golf cart, but kind of make it a retro version? So it looks like it's older and might be from that time period, but still at the same time be recognizable for what it is. And I was like, yes, do that, please. Because we are more concerned about getting the feel for the time period and the vibe than we are for it being authentic. Like if you're an expert in Prohibition-era United States, you'll be vastly disappointed, right? With what we come up with. But if you're just cool to be like, hey, like we like the idea of Prohibition and Tommy guns and Model Ts, then yeah, this could be right up your alley. Even though in Zoo Mafia, you're just a regular zoo animal during the day, and at night, it's like Secret Life of Pets kind of style, where you have this whole life outside of being a zoo animal that the humans don't know about. You guys communicate, you have culture, you have different organizations, they have their own shops, their own livelihoods. And of course, when any of that happens, there is going to also be crime. And if you're going to have crime, you need crime bosses. And in this case, mafia families. So we've used plenty of stuff when it comes to like explosives and vehicles, but there is so much more that we can do. So you can break it down into weapons and firearms, right? Which we've completely got that covered in, I don't know, the 4 or 5 live plays we have up at this point. We completely get into that. Vehicles and transportation. We've used motorcycles, mopeds, hot air balloons,
Vans, pedal cars, regular cars, the swan boats. I look at, the technology that we haven't gone into, and that's dealing with like the serious like surveillance and security. We haven't done any missions where like observe, just watch what's going on and don't be detected. Like there's some elements that still fit the vibe of the game that have kind of not had the surface scratched on yet.
I know I used it in an example. I don't know if it's come up in the game, where obviously you have locks and alarms. Locks we've used plenty of. Alarms not as much, but alarms in that case is literally a bell, right? That just keeps ringing until someone turns it off, right? It's not as sophisticated as like what they have now, where you have silent alarms and stuff. We have newspapers for communication. We have underground networks. What I was kind of surprised with is like telephones, right? Because telephones existed, but we haven't really put them into our games yet. And it would make sense, but also, and then if you have telephones, then you can also have wiretaps on those telephones. So I feel like, going forward, with some of this stuff, I definitely want to make sure it comes up more often. And also, like, I think it's kind of funny, the idea of the animal enclosures having, hidden telephones, right? That they use to communicate with each other. And what happens, when, one of these gets discovered, it's this weird oddity.
It's still fun to explore.
And the thing is, like, we've done other games where we've used lots of technology, right? Like our Expanse game. that we played in. Tons of stuff was done with that game. And like at one point, the GM is like, I didn't expect most of your problems to be solved by Googling. Like now, why you may not exactly be able to do that per se, but like there are phones. So, you would generally think of like the cops, the flat paw or the claw patrol using wiretaps and stuff like that. Why couldn't the criminals use that, right? Why that could be a mission in itself, is to kind of break into some place and, set up a wiretap in order to get information or gain access.
I mean, that's right out of the playbook, being able to be like, all right, well, you need information, you're not going to be able to persuade. So you got to do it covertly. You got to sneak in. You got to set up the tap. Then you got to have somebody, who's paying attention and listen, jotting everything down, taking all those pertinent notes. It's how things were done.
And also, does that mean like you guys need to come up with codes and phrases and slang in order to have communications over a distance, just in case you are being observed?
I mean, that is how things were done. Like if you're gonna talk about a speakeasy, you're certainly not gonna be like, hey, do you want to go drink some alcohol tonight? Like, that's like saying, hey, do you want to go murder somebody? Like you're blatantly saying, I'm going to commit a crime.
Yep. Yeah. So that is definitely an area going forward with Zoo Mafia that I hope to explore more of and kind of like use to enrich the world. Doing a little prep for this video definitely kind of shined a light on some areas where we were a little bit lacking.
Well, I mean, that's what research does. It moves everything forward.
And until next time, stay nerdy.
Stay nerdy.